Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Thursday, the 14th of July. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning, as ever, by Joshua Barrie. How are we doing, Joshua?
Good, Derek. Looking forward to chatting through Rangers things as you with ever.
As always. Before we do that, folks, just a bit of housekeeping. As ever, you can see the download the One Football app on your screen there. It is our sponsor to these morning briefing shows. It's your one-stop shop for all your footballing needs. You can keep up to date with all the latest goings on from Ibrox signing news, as well as there's fixture lists on there. You can keep abreast of the opposition and what's ahead for the Ibrox club. And also, if you have a team down south, you can keep up to date with all that's going on in the English Premier League, the Championship, League One and League Two, and also the European competitions. Lots of information on there as well. The good news about it is it's totally free. It won't cost you a penny, and it's available for iPhone and Android users. A lot of you are downloading it and hearing great things. So that is a One Football app. And also, as you can see in the ticker below, we've got an offer on the website just now. If you subscribe, you get 2 months worth of content for just £2. We're practically giving it away, just £2.99 per month thereafter. You won't regret it, folks. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. And a number of you have already taken advantage of that offer, so thank you for that, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Joshua, let's talk all things Rangers. Lots of people tuning in already. You've got a piece on the website this morning. It's seen it's pretty popular on social media. You've profiled the Rangers squad. You've got all the positions in there, and it looks fairly congested in certain areas. Lots of comments coming in saying that certain players need to be moved on. But it's a great article you've got there on the website. What's your main findings from that? I'm looking at it right now, and I'm thinking central midfield and defence is congested, to say the least.
Yeah, well, in hindsight, Derek, I definitely should have downloaded this for the show, but I've not, so here we are.
Well, I've done it. I'll stick it in the comments. Don't worry about that.
You stick it.
Job here.
Yeah, absolutely. I can always rely on you, or you can also see it on my Twitter page, the Rangers Review Twitter page. But yeah, it does look congested. I mean, the idea, obviously, in any of these articles is to kind of look back, take a bit of stock, see where the club are in terms of the transfer business, see where the squad is. This time last week, Derek, I think it was last Thursday that Antonio Cholak signed in some point in the afternoon, maybe early evening. So this time last week, Rangers hadn't made any acquisitions in the summer. Obviously, John Souttar had arrived on a pre-contract agreement. Now they've signed three players who will want to play minutes. You know, they're not, I wouldn't call any of them squad fillers. You know, Lawrence has evidently come on pretty good wages, rejected Sheffield United to come up the road, and in his own words, win trophies. Rabi Matondo, 21-year-old, really highly thought of player, went for 11 million when he was a little bit younger, so obviously a player with a lot of potential. And then Antonio Cholak, everyone knows his quality, and again, you look at his last two full seasons with Malmo and in Croatia as well, pretty impressive scoring record. So, and they bring goals as well. I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head what numbers they got combined in their last full seasons, but certainly if you look at, you know, as we discussed yesterday, Matondo took more shots than crosses in the Belgian top flight last season, 3-2. Tom Lawrence very much a kind of, I think, going to play as a goal-scoring midfielder for Rangers, and Cholak is the second number 9 that is definitely an upgrade on Cedric Itten and should provide a genuine, competition for Alfredo Morelos. So I think it's three good acquisitions, and you look at certain areas of that pitch. The central midfield role, the centre-back role, and the attacking midfield role, for me, as well as the left-back position, where there still could be activity this window. I think, for example, there's a few hypotheticals. You know, Morelos and Kent could stay and sign new contracts, so they could not. We obviously don't. We just know discussions are ongoing. We don't know the outcome of that yet, so that could depend what happens there. Rangers could qualify for the Champions League or not. You could have a big bid to come in for Calvin Bassey. And all these things will affect what happens with the squad. But, you know, speaking hypothetically at the moment, say that's your squad, give or take a couple of players hopefully going out the door to free up a bit more wages. I think the attacking midfield role, somewhere in between that central midfield and attacking midfield role, is where the last bit of money would maybe be spent in terms of getting a real starter in, presuming that Rangers have a budget before they go, before the potential Champions League money. But it is bloated in certain areas. Equally, I think it looks refreshed in certain areas, which is important. If you look at Lawrence and Matondo they're the two players I think will probably start as the squad is at the moment. As I say, Cholak providing competition for Morelos. So, there's a potential, I think, still for a fair bit of movement, obviously dependent on those circumstances, the contracts, the Champions League, and what happens with someone like Calvin Bassey, because if a big bid comes in for him, it changes the complexion of the defence a lot. Derek, maybe we should go through position by position, starting with the defence. But, if you look at Suter and Hollander, they're both got questionable injury records. If Bassey's playing at left back, suddenly you don't have all that much depth at centre back.
Hollander for me, and as a comment came in, he's injured, of course. Brian Harley says Hollander out again, need a new defender ASAP. Listen, Hollander, when he's fit, for me, is until Bassey became the world's greatest defender I've ever seen. He was the best defender for me at Rangers. Unfortunately, very similar to Roof. You can't rely on him. He breaks down too often. I think that's the reason why Rangers do have him. I think if he never had that injury record, he'd be playing down south. I think it's one of those, Joshua. I mean, I think it would be in Rangers' best interest if he was maybe perhaps one of the players that was moved on. However, if you're another club and you look at his injury record, it's not an attractive proposition, is it?
It's the same discussion with Roof. And I think Roof last season obviously was injured more than he was the previous season. And now when players start to get injured in pre-season, I think it irritates supporters because they'll think, well, they're not going to be ready for the season and whatnot. I think Hollander was more precautionary than Roof because he had been involved with the sessions. I think when you were out in Portugal, I think I'm right in saying that, Derek. Yeah, so and he hasn't really played at all under Van Bronckhorst. I think it was the St Mirren 4-0 game where he got injured. But, you look at that, I'll read out the centre defensive contingent, which is Goldson and Katic on the right. Suter, presuming his first choice, on the left, Hollander, King and Simpson. So you've got 6 players there. Katic and Simpson, I don't think either of them are good enough. Simpson certainly hasn't had much of a chance. And the old thing about Katic, I don't think he's quite good enough on the ball. Leon King, very highly rated, definitely ready to make that step up. But he is younger. You're ready to put him in as one of the maybe main 2 or 3, depending on injuries. And again, as we discussed yesterday, if the left back position, which is occupied by Bassey and Barisic, I think Bassey probably starts at centre left back at the start of the season. It's difficult because you can do both positions so well. Maybe he does start centrally. I don't think that position is necessarily finished because, as I say, so much is depending on if Suter and Hollander get a couple of injuries suddenly. Without Balogun there from last season, you're down to, not that Bassey isn't a centre back. I think we're way past that narrative. It's more the fact that if Bassey's playing there and you've only got Barisic at left back, you're a little bit threadbare, kind of across that left-sided position. To go to the right, you've got Tavernier and Zakowski and Devine.
Yeah, you're sorted over there.
You're sorted over there. It's more a question of who's the backup. We've not seen much of Zakowski apart from that he's really put on a lot of muscle, hasn't he?
He's been in the gym pumping iron, is what he's been doing.
Yeah, that's where he's been for the last 6 months. And Adam Devine was out with the squad in Portugal and is really impressed. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens across the left side of the defence. And just quickly on goals, in goals, Van Bronckhorst said to I think he was speaking to yourself and a couple others last week, Derek, that the number 1 position is up for grabs. And I wouldn't be surprised based on just reading between the lines there if it is McLaughlin that starts in goals at the start of the season. We started that first friendly, and I don't know. Equally in saying that, I think McGregor will have stayed on because he wants to play. So it'll be intriguing to see what happens there.
Yeah, it was interesting because he was asked about that. Now, in that friendly, John McLaughlin played the first half. Robbie McCrory was coming on for the second half. McGregor wasn't even in the squad. However, when he was asked who's being his number one next season, McGrory never entered the debate. So it's going to be either McLaughlin or McGregor. And it remains to be seen if McCrory hangs about. Joshua, I think it's a tough. I'm looking at it through his eyes, and if I'm third choice again this season, I'd be looking to move out, even if it's on loan for a season to get game time. I think for the good of his career, it does Robbie McCrory no good to just sit in the stand every week.
Well, Alan McGregor, pardon me, didn't become Rangers number one to what age?
Same age as McCrory is now.
Yeah, so I don't think as if he's missed lots of years of first team football, but equally I think he'll feel he's ready to go and play. So I agree with you. I don't know what's going to happen with that situation. Sorry, I remember speaking at the time while the news about McGregor was surfacing that I don't see the merit, albeit Van Bronckhorst has obviously spoken a lot about McGregor's experience, but in terms of if he was going to be on the bench for certain games instead of McCrory, I don't understand the thinking of that. If you look down south, it's often the experienced third goalkeeper will be a third choice. If you look at what City have done with Scott Carson, Man United have done with Lee Clark, Liverpool did it with Andy Lonergan, I think it was.
Yeah.
So, and also a good point here by Rob that Sands and Lundstram can obviously cover at centre back.
Yeah, it's a good point.
As well. Obviously, we're just kind of looking primarily at players' first positions for this piece, but I don't think it's improbable that Sands plays at centre back. He's done so a couple of times the final day of the season. I kind of think that if he's not getting game time in the centre midfield, maybe it would be, wouldn't be a surprise to see him as centre back.
Yeah. Interestingly, Matt Gilks is another one that covered Bolton down here, and he was similar. He's backup goalkeeper, same age as McGregor, but sort of been phased out now, and I think that may happen with McGregor. But who knows? He may have in him to play as many games as he did last season. I'm sure he would know his body, and he'll be able to do what he can. I'm sure, like the coaching staff know, you'd imagine, if he can reach the heights that we know he can do, although I think McLaughlin is his time to take over the gloves. Let's look at some of the other questions that are coming in. There was an interesting point made. CGM 55, he says that I see Cole McKinnon went out on loan, as well as Tony Weston. Interested to see how they go. This is interesting, Josh. The both of them are at Firhill. Cannot wait to see them if they're wearing the most ridiculous strip I think I've ever seen in my life. With the Kingsley on the front, the one-off jersey. I think this is a good move for Cole McKinnon and Tony Weston. They're going to be playing at a very decent level. Obviously it's levels up from the B team in the Lowland League. I think this is a good move all round.
Yeah, Cole McKinnon certainly by the end of last season obviously signed his 3-year contract, I think, in the summer. He seemed to be one of the players that was coming into the first team squad with a bit of a reputation. Obviously scored that goal in the final day. I think he has what is really beneficial to any young player coming up to the first team, which is real physicality, ability to get around the pitch. And he doesn't look like a young boy coming up to play first team football. Obviously the Lowland League will have helped somewhat with that as well. And Weston's an intriguing one because I've watched him a few times now for the B team, maybe 4 or 5 times. The game that stands out was the 3-0 Old Firm win in April. I thought his movement was really good. Hadn't quite realised how quick he was. And I think he came on to play on the left against Hearts on the final day of the season. So Partick Thistle quickly becoming Rangers feeder club for loan deals, aren't they? I guess it makes sense in terms of the location, obviously the standard that they're playing at. So it'll be interesting to see how both of them get on, because it's a good enough level to I guess go and test themselves. And McKinnon in particular, I think he's a player who maybe in the next couple of years could be in the first team squad in some capacity. And Weston, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him, because he scored a lot of goals at a youth team level.
Yeah. Just a number of transfer comments coming in here, Joshua. Just to clarify, in terms of yesterday, the reports that Malik Tillman, Bayern Munich forward, Rangers, I'm told, that are interested in him. 20-year-old forward, powerful player, American international, played 4 times for Bayern Munich. That's one that's certainly exciting to fans. However, I'm told there was a report yesterday morning that Swansea City teenager Cameron Congreve, he signed a new deal at Swansea. There was a report that Rangers wanted to bring him in on loan. Welsh player. I'm told that is a complete bunkum, as they say, so they're not interested in him. But Malik Tillman, we touched on him yesterday, Joshua. I've got to say, I think the fact he plays for Bayern Munich has my attention. I think that I've not seen him play. However, I think that would be a terrific bit of business if Rangers can manage to attract him to Ibrox.
Yeah, well, if he could, I mean, leads us back nicely into the squad profile, Derek, because I think if you look at that midfield position, deep midfield, you've got Jack Lundstrom, Kamara, Davis, Sands, McCann, and even Stephen Kelly still around. I know he was a player last pre-season who everyone was saying, when's he going to get a goal? So I maybe think he's missed the boat at Ibrox, but wouldn't mind seeing him a little bit more in pre-season. Be interested to see what Van Bronckhorst thinks of him. The left and the right wing pretty sorted. I think as it stands, you've got Kent and Sakala. Obviously, as we say, Kent, I would think discussions are ongoing. We've been told that. So presuming that he does stay this window, the left wing's pretty stocked. Matondo and Scott Wright on the right side, presuming Matondo plays there, pretty well stocked. Up front, we spoke yesterday about the need for maybe some refreshment in terms of Roof because of his injury record, but parking that for a minute, I think that attacking midfield role, a player who can play off the striker or someone who can maybe be an attack-minded midfielder, because at the moment you've got Tom Lawrence, Alex Lowry, Scott Arfield, Yanis Hadji. Yanis Hadji isn't going to play again this year probably, and then after that, it could take him any number of games to get up to speed after being out for a year. Scott Arfield is now 34. I don't think you can rely on him to play as many minutes as he did last season. Certainly, there was the game, I think the 1-0 St Johnstone game, where he just looked like he played so much football, and you don't want to, I think, rely on...
No subs game.
Yeah, the no subs game. Yeah. I don't want to rely on that. Indeed. That was a long evening. You
were there, weren't you? You were up there, were you not?
I was up there, yeah. It was 1-0. I think Kamara scored after...
Yeah, it was a beauty of a goal, to be fair. But then,
yeah, it was... Arfield's, I was going to say missed a good chance, but it was actually the St Johnstone keeper made a really good save from him. And it wasn't a good night all in all. So I think it was just after the Old Firm friendly had been announced. So it was a tense atmosphere within no subs to break up the game. But then you look, Alex Lowry. I think Alex Lowry is ready to play a lot of football this season, but I don't think he's the player. As I said yesterday, I don't know if he's that kind of back to goal, carry the ball up the pitch. Maybe he's better with the face and play, although he could play that role. Say you play 2 attack-minded midfielders. I know Kamara's played there, or Jack's played as kind of a hybrid number 8, but you're looking at really Lawrence, Lowry, and Arfield as your attacking midfield options. So I think you want to stock up there. I think that's where you could have a signing come in, regardless of what else happens in the squad, regardless of if Rangers make the Champions League and the money that comes with that. You could have a player come in there to provide a bit of quality. And Tillman, we've got a scout report on him on the website. I think it was a couple of days ago. I think it kind of suits the narrative as well that Van Bronckhorst in a lot of domestic games will play with 2, not 2 defensive midfielders, but he'll play with 2 deep midfielders to try and move the ball forwards instead of 1. That's kind of what he moved towards the end of last season. And I think a player like Tillman, certainly on the surface of things, looks pretty exciting. So we'll have to keep our eye on what happens with that one. And if he does come in, do a bit more profile and see how he could fit in at Ibrox.
Yeah, just rounding up the central midfield department, Joshua. A question coming in from Alan. Can we not be having the same discussion about Ryan Jack regarding injury record? It's a fair comment. I know you.
Well, I think on that as well. I do agree, but the second half of that, and I guess when a player has a bad injury record, some players do manage to get over it, and for whatever reason, Ryan Jack. I don't recall many times he had to sit out a couple of games after coming back. I think it was the Old Firm. Was the Old Firm his first?
Yes,
One of his
Parkhead.
first games was when he hit the crossbar in the second half, didn't he? That.
Yeah.
And then he got injured against Hearts. He got an ankle injury, but after that, he had a couple of really, really good months. So I think Talon's point, absolutely, because if you look at Ryan Jack's been at the club now for, will this be his 5th season? I think it's 5th season.
Yeah, Pedro, I think, brought him in, wasn't
it? Maybe it's his. I think it was 2017 he came into but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
He's missed a lot of football in that time.
Yeah.
I think with Ryan Jack, probably look at it and you'd say that you've seen his impact when he came back into the squad at that time. It was pretty transparent, I think, how impactful he was in the middle of the pitch. And I guess it depends on all, what wages he's on, whatnot. Managing his load very carefully, but you hope that he did the injury that impacted him so much this time. You hope that he's managed to put that behind him, and that the evidence of the second half of last season proves that. But absolutely, it's a risk. If you're going into a season, for example, with Jack and Roof and Hollander and Suter, and it's a risk, and that is, I guess, something that the club will have to kind of have considered when they're building the squad, because certainly you could have a lot of wages on the treatment table at any given time, and you don't want that, do you? So
no.
I don't think it's improbable that someone like Roof, depending on his injuries, moves on this summer. Equally, as you say, there is the alternative that if you can get him fit, etc., but then you can only say that so long, I think, before supporters get frustrated. And Kemar Roof, anyone who goes to, has been to any games, especially like last season, obviously the season before there was no fans there. I think he's hugely popular with the fans. Always gets his Roof chant, which I, for a few weeks back last August, thought the supporters were booing him, and I was thinking, but I mean, he's a popular. I think he's a popular member for the fans. Again, though, like Alan was making that point there with players, it's the case of when do you kind of say, this is, how long can you go on for with players who are really injured? So maybe that's another thing to consider. How many players can Rangers feasibly go into the season with players who are going to spend time injured regardless of what happens?
Yeah, this comment from Rob Call, a length of contract for Lawrence. I'm led to believe it's 3 years with the option of a 4th, Rob. That's my understanding with regards to Tom Lawrence. Cannot wait to see him in action. I'm really looking forward to it. Seen him twice, Joshua, and he scored a screamer in each game. So if it keeps up that ratio, I think the Rangers supporters will be satisfied with that. And hopefully we'll see him at Blackpool on Saturday. Graham Corkin, good friend of the show, says we'll head into Blackpool this weekend. I'll be going there. Cannot wait to go. Large contingent of Rangers fans heading down there. Of course, it's the friendly that should have taken place last summer. But with COVID and what have you, but it will be good to see fans pack out Bloomfield Road for that game as Rangers continue their pre-season preparations. Just finishing up then on that squad, Ryan Kent over on the left-hand side. A few comments coming in, Joshua, and I've seen a report from a Turkish journalist suggesting that Galatasaray are interested in Ryan Kent. I'm going to try and firm this up today and see what's going on, but I can't see that happening.
No.
However, he is one of those players, as we mentioned, like Morelos in the final year of his contract. It's one of those. Do you risk him a la Goldson running down his
No.
I don't think you can do that with a player of Ryan Kent's calibre and price tag on his head. So something has to give this summer. Do you think
that's why there's so much still to happen this summer?
Yeah.
There, you've got Kent, you've got Morelos, Champions League. Will Bassey get another bid coming from? So theoretically, you could have a lot of movement in and out depending on what happens. I don't see Kent and Morelos at all having the same situation as Goldson. I think that was quite unique, and it worked for the club in the end. You have to say that. I think that's a gamble they won't want to take many times. But how much would you have got for Goldson at that age with clubs knowing he was out of contract the following season last summer? You're not talking the money that. Yeah, and Rangers needed to keep him, obviously, they wanted to keep him for the Champions League qualifiers and getting into European competition. Ken, I think you look at a player like Ken. I think his ambition one day, whether it be this summer, next summer, the one after, will be to go to the Premier League. I don't think.
Yeah.
he's wanting to go and play Turkish football at this stage of his career. And again, with Morelos, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think we've both spoken on here before. It seems like they're quite settled. Kent in particular obviously isn't the most kind of vocal or the most a player you maybe learn that much. Yeah, but I think you can tell certainly from snippets you've seen out the last few years just how much he loves being at the club. You've seen his reaction at the final whistle, for example, in the semi-final win over Leipzig, and his face there, and I very much think that he loves being at Rangers. So as you say, we'll firm up the kind of discussion surrounding that, but as we know, both talking to the club, and hopefully there's a good positive outcome for Rangers, because they're so important. Even if messily sometimes the numbers can frustrate, they're so important. And if Rangers are to get into the Champions League, I also don't, it's not improbable, obviously, if Kent or Morelos goes and signs a new 3-4 year deal. That's not saying that they'll be at the club for 3-4 years, but it's protecting their value. And obviously that's even more important with Kent because he came in for a good bit of money, so you certainly don't want to lose out on that investment. Yeah,
what I think is smart from Rangers, however, is the acquisition of Rabbi Matondo, Joshua, because we spoke about yesterday, he can alleviate some of the pressure, some of the over-reliance sometimes on Ryan Kent. And if he were to depart, then you've got someone in there that can fill that void. So it's good forward thinking, not reactive, which is good.
Yeah, and there, one final thing. Do you know what it is? A year ago today that we launched the Rangers Review website.
Wow.
Yeah.
Seems.
I know. Like, so
off the cake here or something like that. But
happy anniversary, mate.
Yeah,
Johnny isn't here to celebrate, but yeah, you're on. So thanks to everyone for watching, reading the website, and supporting what was a very, very busy season, and looking forward to doing it all over again. Maybe not 65 games, but I'm sure it will be busy again.
Yeah. Well, thanks to everyone. It's you guys that make the channel what it is. So thanks very much, everyone, and thanks again to all those who have tuned in this morning. I think that will do us there. We'll be back again tomorrow as we preview Saturday's pre-season friendly with Blackpool. If you're heading down there, folks, or heading there from wherever you are in the world, then safe travels to you all. I'll be there, of course, hopefully speaking to a few fans. So if you see me wandering about the promenade, then come up and have a chat with me. I'd really appreciate it. Just a reminder, that little ticker below, we've got an offer on the website just now. If you sign up, you get 2 months of coverage for just £2. We're practically giving it away. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. Okay, we'll speak to you again tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday.